Welcome to the Loretta Brown Show. You know, it's just one of those mornings. Hi, everybody. This is Loretta coming in out of the fog and some other things, right?
Literally.
Anyway, this is radio to open the heart, heal the soul, and awaken the consciousness.
Like a holiday hangover.
Like a holiday hangover.
Yeah, you're like, all right, let's slap the face a little bit. Let's get to work. Come on, Loretta.
I'm usually a little bit more put together. No, that's not true.
No, you're always put together.
I am. But, you know, I'm coming in off of the Christmas, coming in off of that winter solstice, coming in off of the full moon in Cancer, going into Capricorn, going into the new year. Yay! I'm so glad.
Me too, because my birthday's next week.
It is?
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Do we get to celebrate it like all month? Or
On
all
the
week?
day, I think your show is, let's see, 1, 2, 3. No, you're the day before. But it's considered the same day.
What's your birthday?
The 4th
The 4th?
of January.
Man, you're a Capricorn.
Yes.
I know.
That's why we just get along so well.
I know.
Grounded energy.
I know.
Boom, we get things done.
Well, my moon's in Capricorn.
We'll see, that's another reason.
It's a pretty big year for us Capricorns.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on. And I'll get into more things, but just to say this, Capricorn is the sign of get it done.
Yeah.
Get it cleaned up.
That's why I work mornings.
That's right.
Okay. That's why I was giving you all those countdowns so we could edit for our guests before we bring them on. I'm like, let's work. Come on, get it going.
I was, I'll just say this on the air. I was actually on Facebook changing the pictures, and I always apologize when I get the wrong pictures up there because my guests today are amazing, and I'm going to bring them on in a minute, and I do want you to be able to know what they actually look like.
They deserve proper recognition.
They do.
It's the right photo.
They do. Occasionally I share a link from the KKNW website, and somebody else's picture will come up, and people go, Loretta, who is that?
Yeah,
and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I
don't know. Who is that?
I just know it's not me, right? That's all I know. So anyway, I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas, wonderful holidays. We are coming up on the new year. Some people believe in New Year's resolutions, and some people just believe you should resolve it when it comes up.
Intentions.
That's right.
I think that's what I'm going to start rephrasing it as. Because not everyone, fulfills their resolution to the end degree. So, you know, the end point. It's an intention.
Yeah.
At least I started. I could stay with it.
Yeah.
And I'll take it however I see fit.
Yeah. Yeah. However I see fit. Somebody sent me a Facebook post, I think it was yesterday, where it's like January 1st, and there's like the brand new exercise machine.
Oh, right.
And then it was like, I don't know, February 1st, and the exercise machine has got, dirty clothes hanging all over
and
it.
dust all over it.
It's
Right.
just
Never been used. Used once.
Yeah, used once. Yeah.
So the intention.
It is the intention, right. And talking about intention, I'm the owner of Reiki Oasis, located right here in the Greater Seattle area, going on 24 years in business. Whew, what a ride. What a wonderful thing. I am offering my traditional end-of-the-year prayer bundles, despachos, intention settings, whatever you want to call it. Very, very special ceremonies that I do with people to help you get rid of or to just consciously set an intention of what you would like to let go of and what you would like to bring in. I did the first one last night. We had a wonderful turnout. It was really a sweet time and a powerful time. And if you missed last night, don't worry, because I'm going to do it again this evening at 7 p.m. at Reiki Oasis. So go ahead and just do, come on out if you want to. You can send me an email at Loretta@ReikiOasis.com and go from
I'm
there.
giggling because your post finally went through and it says now. And I'm
did
like,
it?
and then I'm going to share it again and go on now. So don't lose out.
I was having trouble reposting that, and it was like I'm typing and it won't even type. So sometimes the energy is really powerful. I would like to give a big shout out to my supporters at Patreon, and we are a listener-supported show. Airtime is not complimentary, but if you become part of my the Loretta Brown Show community, you get lots of goodies, and you also just get to have a beautiful knowing that you are also contributing as community to helping to bring these amazing guests and their messages to the world. And I think we need this sort of uplifting information all the time. That's why I do this show. And besides, obviously, I like to talk, and I love talking to you. So thank you so much for tuning in. It's going to be a great show. So my guest today, I'm just going to jump right into it because I've got a lot to talk to them about, and I want to hear what they have to say. My guests are Felicity Eliot and Julian Creme. Felicity Eliot is the daughter-in-law of Benjamin Creme, who Scottish artist, principal spokesperson for Maitreya for over 40 years, and the founding editor of Share International. And Benjamin did pass away a couple of years ago. And Julian Creme, his son, and of course, Julian and Felicity happen to be married to each other, and they're continuing this wonderful work with Share International and the message of Maitreya. So both of them, along with a group of many thousands of co-workers and volunteers around the world, continue with the work of informing the world about Maitreya, hoping to create a sense of expectancy for his imminent appearance before the world. Felicity and Julian are coming to us from Amsterdam this morning. Thank you so much for being on this show. It is an honor and a blessing to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
You're so welcome. Mm-hmm. So either one of you can take this question, but can you talk a little bit about Share International? What is Share International? What are you involved in?
Well, first of all, it's an informal network of groups of volunteers throughout the world, in many parts of the States, in the UK, Europe, Far East, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and all of these volunteers are dedicated to making known the presence in the world now of the world teacher for the coming age, whose name is Maitreya. And perhaps we can explain in a moment who Maitreya is.
Yeah, that'd be lovely. Yeah.
Share International is also the name of a magazine. We produce a monthly magazine called Share International, and that goes to subscribers in about 70 different countries around the world. It's also translated into a number of other languages. Now, in order to explain who Maitreya is, we really have to discuss who are the masters of wisdom. And in order to do that, we have very briefly to discuss the constitution of man. And when I say man, I mean also woman. Mm-hmm. The constitution of the human being. What makes up the human being? Most of us think that what we are is the person we see in the mirror, or the man or woman standing in front of us. But that is really only, I like to refer to it as the personality, with its likes and dislikes, its thoughts and feelings and so on. But that is really only a vehicle for a higher aspect, which you could call the higher self, the true self, or the soul. And the soul uses its vehicle to express, as far as it is able, its quality and purpose. And through the process of reincarnation, obviously the personality dies at the end of the life, but the soul takes a personality after personality, a life after life after life, gradually perfecting its vehicle so that it can become a perfect expression of the quality and purpose of the soul. The soul itself is a vehicle for a yet higher aspect, which you could call the spirit or the monad or the spark of God. So essentially, we are a threefold being. We are a spark of God, the divine spark, which each of us, every one of us essentially is, that expresses itself through its vehicle, the soul, and that in turn expresses itself through the personality. Now, through the process of reincarnation and this gradual bringing into alignment of these different aspects of oneself, one gradually brings together all of them, so that eventually you've got a spirit, a spark of God, expressing itself through a soul-infused personality. And at that point, you become a master. So the masters are those who have been through this process, ordinary men and women, but they have been through this whole evolutionary process as far as the human kingdom is concerned, and perfected themselves. Now, Maitreya was one of the first to achieve mastery, and he is the master of all the masters. And he holds the office, if you like, in that group of masters, the office of world teacher. And whoever is the holder of that office at any given period is the world teacher for that period. And he has now returned and will be with us for the coming age of Aquarius, the next 2,300 or 400 years.
Wow, that's...
Loretta,
yes, go ahead.
You were talking earlier and mentioned just before this show actually got started, talking about astrology and we're moving into Capricorn and so on. So you obviously know quite a bit about it, and you'll be aware, as many people are these days, that we're moving into the age of Aquarius, and this brings about huge changes. And if we look at the world, you can see basically that humanity is more or less, let's say, divided, or can be seen in two sections. One half that wants to cooperate and go forward and explore new things. That would be the people who are responsive to the Aquarian energies. And you have the other half, because we've just moved out of the age of Pisces, which has been the last 2,150 years or thereabouts. And those people tend to be conservative by nature, small c conservative. And they like things as they are, and they want to maintain the status quo. And we see this quite clearly in everything that all our systems, our structures, in politics, economics, in social everyday life. You can see people who want to hold on to the old ways, and people who are really open to exploring the new.
You have said so much, so succinctly, so well. And I want to go back and kind of help the listeners with, because there was a lot in there, and it's such a rich, it's so rich and wonderful. But you're absolutely right. Like, we are so polarized, and everybody that comes to see me that talk to is feeling like they're being faced with this, okay, the past, but this is the way it's been, and how can we possibly change this? Like, we've had really erratic stock market, right? And we've got the political realm is like, just like I told everyone on my show, like, okay, you're going to be with family, try to be nice, right?
Avoid the polarization, yes. But your word, polarized, is exactly right. Yeah, that's it.
So how go ahead, and I wanted to say, how do we move through this? Because some people are feeling stuck. Some people are coming in going, oh my goodness, I just had a garage sale and to sell a table, and I emptied the house out, right? Like, just go away, right? Get rid of it. Yeah.
It's a very difficult period. And the tension, the polarization is precisely because we are in a period of transition from one age to the other. And the old energies of the age of Pisces are holding on for dear life. Meanwhile, the new energies and ideas and so on of Aquarius are trying to make themselves felt, trying to manifest, people trying to give expression to the new ideas, which will be more along the lines of synthesis, brotherhood, and it's the battle is on between these two energies, and that's what gives rise to the tension and the crises.
Yes.
People these days, of course, are outgrowing the old forms, the old ways that we did things. So it's, we just talked about, Julian mentioned reincarnation, and it's just like that in a way. You come to the end of a cycle, the end of a period, or an end of a life, and you need to get rid of the old forms so that the new can take shape, can be born. And that's what's happening. And humanity, speaking largely and broadly, humanity has outgrown the old systems. So we're not finding that we can find ourselves and live and work and relate correctly to each other, in a just way, to do with freedom, to do with democracy, to do with respect for others. If we maintain these old structures, they just don't work anymore. And so people are really, in a search, really searching for the new ways, and that's what we all have to work out with each other. But it needs a lot more respect and tolerance than we're showing in our political fields at the moment, for example. I think you'll probably find that resonates with you as it resonates with us.
I'm giggling because I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
But that's the same around the world at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got friends in France who I've talked to lately going, wow, there is something coming out of the heart of the people in France.
Exactly.
This is big, and it's right along with what you're saying. Like, we are so tired of these old, worn out, greedy, graspy ways, and also the I'm just going to say the elite, or whoever it is that's got the most money, seems to be moving the chess pieces around. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Yes, the established, the elites, the privileged few, have enormous power, of course, and but it will be the people all throughout the world, all over the world, who will, calling for changes, will lead their leaders eventually into the new age.
Of course, we should emphasize that we're not talking about revolution or violence. What we're talking about actually is evolution, the evolution of consciousness. And that's what we all feel is happening. And that's why you see the people coming out into the streets, or people just meeting quietly with each other, trying to work out new forms of how do we deal with things economically, politically, and so on.
Yeah, because it's affecting all structures.
That's right.
Everywhere. Yes,
and
everything.
The breakdown of our structures is also giving us an opportunity to think about what we actually want to be, how we want to be, to redefine ourselves, and also to think about how we want to relate to all forms of life. By that I'm referring to our planet and life on our planet, the natural world, which is also part of what we need to take care of as we move into the future.
Yes, for sure. I was thinking about that. It's kind of a funny little side thing, but I always feel like messages and connections come from everywhere. And so on Christmas, I went to see Aquaman with my son, and not to be spoiler alert, right? But at one point, the Atlanteans, attack the surface people by throwing their garbage back at them that they've polluted the ocean with, right?
Right.
And I was like, yes. Anyway. Yeah, but it is. I mean, we've really created kind of a mess, and this lack of respect for all forms of life, and
for the planet itself.
Yeah, yeah. She's there. You have a couple of good things you said that to me are like little sayings or little things we can put into our consciousness and just be with them. Like, it's the evolution of our consciousness, not revolution.
Yeah.
Yes, Share International, and if you read Share International magazine, you'll find we often have a section called People Power or the Voice of the People and so on, and Maitreya and the Masters stand behind this and support the voice of the people. But it must be, of course, not necessarily absolutely peaceful or passive, but certainly claiming its rights, but in the correct way, in the correct manner, so that eventually we can move towards consensus, because this is what is required, rather than the polarizing effect of let's say, the laws passed and the decisions taken by politicians throughout the world.
Well, and well said, the masters support the voice of the people. And I know that many people here, and maybe worldwide, are feeling like our leaders are not supporting our voice. We're not sure. And like you say, so many people are wanting to gather together with like-minded people and find some sort of comfort, stability, or even empowerment to move into a better world, I would say.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And you see the growth of movements all over the place, political and social movements looking for new forms, new ways of living. Because people sense that the old ways no longer work.
Yeah, they're sensing it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've noticed, of course, that our magazine and the people we work with have the name Share International. And of course, this is nothing to do with stocks and shares, as you might have gathered, but really to do with the idea of looking at how we can create a fairer world for us all. So I'm not talking about all of us having to dig deep into our own pockets individually to give to someone else, but rather a model that takes into account the needs of all human beings. So it's just the basic needs, no big deal, but we need to think about, and I believe in the States you have in Alaska, the Alaskan model, I think it's called, where people in the state are allowed to partake in the dividend. It's more the idea of the commons and a dividend. And I'm sure you've also heard that in a number of countries, there's an experiment to do with universal basic income. Mm-hmm. So wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever you do, to take the edge off the struggle to survive. And so many people are feeling that around the world. People are working 3 jobs, have got children, and they always have to choose between, for example, feeding the children or buying a new pair of shoes for the child, and so on. So we need to look at the fairer distribution of the world's resources, but not on an individual basis, but really looking worldwide how we can help each other in that way.
Maitreya has set out a number of basic priorities, initial immediate priorities. And these are adequate food for everyone, adequate shelter, housing, access to healthcare, and education as a basic right, because these 4 things are really the absolute essentials for a dignified life. Everyone has to eat, whether he can afford to pay for it or not. If you don't eat, you die. Everyone needs shelter from the elements. Nearly everyone gets sick, except for the lucky few. Mm-hmm. So you need health care, and we all need education to make the best of the opportunities that life presents. And he will be advocating these on a worldwide scale, and these need to be implemented throughout the world. And in order to do this, really, we have to accept and implement the principle of sharing. Sharing of the world's resources, of the know-how, throughout the world according to need. So that's what we mean by sharing.
Sharing according to need. That's beautiful. Yeah. Those 4 basic rights, everyone's entitled to food, shelter or housing, health care, and education. I'm just sitting here with my mouth hanging open because those are like my 4 things that I always say to people, like, we have basic rights. And I'm just I'm just kind of sitting here thinking and experiencing while you're talking Maitreya. And
yes, exactly.
And I'm thinking back to a strange incident that I had, and I don't want this to be about me, but I feel like for some reason I need to bring it up. And about 3 years ago, I had a strange invitation to the Vatican. I'm not Catholic. And I made this trip and had a spiritual experience, which is a little bit personal. It had nothing whatsoever to do with the Vatican, and was given a message to take something from that location to some other place in the world. And I happened to be flying around the world and ended up in Phnom Penh, and went into a Buddhist temple and felt very drawn to this statue. And when I got there, it was one of these strange experiences where the statue sort of came alive and talked to me. And I didn't know who it was. And I asked the tour guide, and he said that's a statue of Maitreya, which in the Buddhist tradition is the fifth Buddha. The fifth
right.
The fifth Buddha.
That's right.
And the statues told me something about, that this was coming soon, and the feminine principle would be...
precisely.
Oh,
yes.
Okay, thank you. Because I wanted validation on that. Yeah.
No, you're giving me the shivers. Yes, it's perfect. And our magazine is full of experiences like this. But how wonderful that you had this, and it's exactly right, because the Buddhists do expect the fifth Buddha, and that is
please
Maitreya.
write it up and send it into the magazine.
All right. Oh, I will.
Yes,
and
please do.
I'm my whole body's tingling. I don't quite often tell such personal stories, but this needed to be. Yeah. Okay.
You've probably come across in your work and your Reiki work and so on, how many people these days believe in angels, and people accept the idea of reincarnation and so on. All of these things are signs of something happening, just as you've experienced now. And we, and Sharing International in the magazine, receive weekly, certainly, experiences similar to what you've just described, which confirm for them some sort of life-affirming principle, something that will move us all forward, something to do with the development of their own consciousness, or it might be to do with healing, helping, advice, comfort, and so on. And this is the way the masters work. They're omnipresent, they are omniscient, they feel, Maitreya says, he feels every tremor of our heart. So all help is given within karmic limits. And of course, you know how karma works.
Yes. And with that note, we're going to take a little station break. This is Loretta Brown, and it's just a lovely time this morning with Felicity, Eliot, and Julian, Creme, and Maitreya. And we'll be right back.
Did you know that Reiki healing can be done at a distance? It's true. So let Reiki Oasis focus powerful energy to help relieve your stress, grief, sadness, anger, and so much more. Convenient, personalized treatments at a distance can increase lightness of being. During your appointment, find a quiet place to lie down or sit to receive healing energies. If you want help with your dis-ease, visit ReikiOasis.com. Harness life's energy. Visit ReikiOasis.com today.
When someone hears the words, "You have cancer," it's one of the darkest moments in their life. Light the Night brings light to the darkness of cancer by uniting survivors, patients, and supporters in the cause to end cancer. Friends, families, and coworkers form a community of hope, raising funds in support of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Together, we walk with lanterns held high to light the path to cures. Last year alone, the FDA approved 18 new drug therapies and treatments to treat blood cancers. The impact of LLS-supported research goes beyond blood cancer. The discoveries made in blood cancer research have led to breakthrough treatments for many cancers and other serious diseases. When we walk, cancer runs. Join the movement to end cancer today. Visit us at lightthenight.org.
I'm Dr. Anthony Lizowitz, and this is Climate Connections. In Aguada, Puerto Rico, volunteers pack recycled tires with earth. Then builders carefully stack the tires into dome-shaped huts. The result is the island's first Earthship. When complete next year, it will consist of 5 structures, built around a central garden and connected by a rain catchment system. Despite the name, the Earthship is not intended to move. Quite the opposite.
Each tire is like a 300-pound brick, so it's definitely not going anywhere with the wind.
That's Laurelina Melendez of the nonprofit Colectivo Verdolaga. She's long been fascinated by Earthships, which have been built around the world since the 70s. But after Hurricane Maria, she knew she had to bring them to her native Puerto Rico. She says Earthships are ideal relief shelters because they're strong and self-sufficient, with solar power and sewage treatment on site. So this first project in Puerto Rico is intended to show what's possible. Melendez hopes it is the first of many Earthships across the island.
If we go through another Maria, but we have Earthships to rely on for water, for safety, and for community more than anything, that'll change things so much.
Climate Connections is produced by the Yale Center for Environmental Communication. Learn more at yaleclimateconnections.org.
Alternative Talk 1150 is your sports organization's safe bet when it comes to airing your team's games. Our players are all seasoned professionals when it comes to sports programming. Imagine your games being heard on local radio. Your team deserves the MVP treatment. Call 425-653-1150 today to learn how affordable and fun it is to broadcast your games on the radio. Call 425-653-1150 and make your next season something special. That's 425-653-1150.
Energy is powerful. It's all around us, mysterious, full of potential. Directing positive, healing energy to raise your vibrational rate through Reiki can change your life. Reiki Master Loretta Brown has relieved stress, sadness, anger, and even helped clients lose weight, stop smoking, and end sleep disorders. Worldwide, people have sought out Reiki Oasis. If you want help with your dis-ease, visit ReikiOasis.com. Harness life's energy. Visit ReikiOasis.com today.
Radio with no added hormones or preservatives. All natural alternative talk, 1150 AM.
Welcome back to the original Loretta Brown Show with my guests Felicity, Eliot, and Julian Creme. And I highly recommend that you check out Share International, which is not only their magazine, but also will direct you to the great work that they are doing in the world with thousands of other people. And of course, we're also talking about Maitreya, which I can't wait to hear more about. And I'd like to come back on. We were talking just before the break about the 5th Buddha. And Julian, if you'd like to talk more about that. Mm-hmm.
Yes, you mentioned when you saw the statue of Maitreya in Thailand, was it?
It was Cambodia. It was Phnom Penh.
Yeah, Cambodia,
mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And yes, you're quite right. The Buddhists know him as Buddha Maitreya, or the 5th Buddha. And in fact, he's expected under different names by all the major world religions as the 5th Buddha, Buddha Maitreya to the Buddhists, Krishna to the Hindus, the Christ to the Christians, Imam Mahdi, or the 12th Imam to the Muslims, and of course the Messiah to the Jews. These are all names for the same individual, the world teacher. But he comes not only as a religious teacher, or in fact not as a religious teacher, and not only for religious people, but for all people. He prefers to be known simply as the teacher, and although the different religious cultures will recognize them according to what they expect. He's also there for those of no particular faith. But you're quite right, he's expected by the Buddhists as the fifth Buddha. Yeah.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, and I'm just creating clarification for the listeners, Maitreya is in human form.
Yes. Very much.
Yeah, and has been alive a long time?
Yes, for thousands of years, yes.
Yes, I can feel people's minds boggling sideways.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, it's a very. I know it sounds far-fetched, a lot of this, and it's quite an extraordinary story, and it really only begins to make sense once you get a fairly good picture and you can put all the pieces together. But Maitreya is, as I said earlier, he holds the office of world teacher and has held that office since the Buddha, who was the world teacher before him. And as I said earlier, will be with us for the rest of the Aquarian age, the next 2,000 plus years.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm asking a question that I think I know the answer to, but I'd like you to answer it. So, if the world teacher Maitreya is here in a body in human form, why is he not stepping forward and saying, "Hey, here I am," like that? And have we seen him? And I'm sorry, I'm saying him. I don't know why I'm saying him. Right? So.
Well, yes, he is in a male body, but
okay.
we'll come to that later.
Yeah.
Yes. He could, of course. He could just come out and say, "I'm Maitreya, listen to me," and so on. But that would infringe human free will. It has to be a natural process. So he is emerging slowly, as yet incognito. He has appeared on television many times as part of a panel, probably under an assumed name. In many countries, started in the United States, also in Brazil. I can't remember all the countries, but Brazil, China, India, and a number of other countries over the last 10 years or so, 8 years. And this will continue. And he is talking about the need for sharing on an international level, sharing in economic affairs, for the need for justice and peace, of course. Another of its major concerns is the environment as well, not only the 4 essential priorities I mentioned earlier, but also the environment, which is in a dire state. And he's doing this so that each of us has an opportunity to respond to what he's saying, respond to the ideas he's putting forward. We have to want humanity. When I say we, I mean humanity has to want these changes. The masters will never force anything onto us because humanity has free will, and we have to want the changes. Maitreya is just the spokesman, if you like. He's proposing these changes, but we have to accept them.
And I'm also hearing in there that we are part of this process. We're not
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So our consciousness is, well, I'm kind of maybe saying it not quite right, but our connection with Maitreya or these the masters or these higher ideals that's part of the evolution of our consciousness.
Exactly. That's
Okay.
absolutely right. You're saying it perfectly.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely perfectly. I noticed that in your question was also the idea of whether are there female masters or wise.
I'll certainly come back to that. Yes, good. Yeah.
If I may, yes. And so I'd like to say that, of course, one of the women's movement, for example, was actually inspired by the masters. They stand behind it, support it, and have encouraged the women's movement. And as we said before, the coming age will be the age where you see far more of the feminine principle coming to the fore and women taking their places, their rightful places. Now, there will be masters in female bodies in, I think it's about 200 to 300 years' time. But in the meantime, let me really say it very clearly. On the soul level, we're all of us, both male and female. In fact, there is no such thing as gender, as it were, on the soul level. And that's what we all are, essentially. And we have lives in which we are male, and then a couple of lives later, we might be female, and so on. So we go backwards and forwards. So we have a rounding out, a full experience of incarnation. So we build up gradually empathy, compassion, all of the qualities that you see in a master. So the masters for the moment are in male bodies, but they stand fully behind and have actually were the inspirers behind the women's movement. And that will continue so that people are far more aware of, in fact, who we are in our essence, and that is souls in incarnation.
Thank you for that. I love that. And along that same line, can you talk a little bit more about the feminine principle in regards to the message that I got from Maitreya? Yeah.
Yes. Yes, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead. What is the feminine principle? How does that play into this whole idea of our evolution and our working together?
It's simply a part of being a human, and you can see that the female principle, I know that perhaps some women who are perhaps a little bit more radical in their thinking might find this rather old-fashioned, but it is a fact that the feminine principle is actually the nourishing principle. It is that which nourishes life. And you'll have noticed it in your travels around the world. You come to a particular country and somehow you feel more nourished, and you'll hear it in what people say about their countries. They talk quite intuitively, and always have done, about the motherland or the fatherland. And that's very interesting that countries actually have a male principle, or in other countries a more dominant female principle. And you feel it on an individual level wherever you are in certain countries. There's that nourishing that you get through the culture of a country. I'm not saying that doesn't happen in masculine countries. It certainly does, but in a completely different way. France is an example of a country which is, you mentioned France earlier on during the break, and France is a female country. And this female principle is the nourishing and, nourishing principle. And we'll see that coming to the fore. And, it is a cliche to say that women do things differently. I personally don't believe that all female leaders have always been perfect. In fact,
No.
I would have a lot to say about a particular one in Britain, some 30 years ago, which started a lot of problems. But it is true that women do approach things slightly differently. And you're blessed in America at the moment to see a lot of brilliant young women coming forward in your political life and changing the landscape, aren't they?
Yeah, they sure are. Yeah. Welcome to them. Yeah.
Yes. In fact, your newly elected congresswoman for... forgive me, I can't remember the district in New York, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, is talking precisely about Maitreya's priorities. She talks about the need for food, shelter, healthcare, education as a universal right.
Yes, absolutely.
And, it's fantastic.
I think we're going to see more of that. And also, my sense is more people coming together, more of that as we connect more with this higher consciousness, which how is, and maybe you can answer this question, maybe you can't, because I get this idea that Maitreya, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. I don't know if we're connecting with that consciousness. Does Maitreya connect with everyone?
Yes, absolutely,
Okay.
everyone. Yes, and what you've just said is absolutely correct. The Aquarian energies, one of the actually main characteristics of Aquarians and Aquarian energies is to bring people together. So you get this kind of synthesis, people coming together, working in groups to find solutions. So you see a natural forming of groups and synthesis of approaches, which is, moving away from the huge polarization we see at the moment. And Maitreya does send his energies and very powerful energies stimulating us, humanity, to make the changes we need. So when you're saying, does Maitreya feel all of us, sense all of us? Yes, he certainly does. And you can experience that both on a personal level, individually, as you did, I believe, and also as we, the world as a whole, are starting to experience it. A sense of something coming, something new, the need for renewal, the need to redefine ourselves as humanity. What kind of a world do we want to be part of? What do we want for the world? What do we want to leave to the future, to our grandchildren and so on? But how do we want to be with ourselves, within ourselves, inwardly, and how do we want to be with others?
Those are the most wonderful, powerful questions that I think so many people are asking, and definitely the people that come to see me ask those questions all the time. Like, what can we do to make a better world? And what does it mean as old things topple and new things are being built? And, of course, fear rises up in the middle of all of that. Yeah.
Yes, and the thing is to try not to give in to the fear.
Right.
Stay positive, because the fear cuts you off from those energies which are nourishing. So
Yeah. Julian, I want to ask a little bit about your father, Benjamin Creme.
Yes.
And I understand that he presented the information about Maitreya's emergence back in, I don't know, maybe the 1970s or something. And he had some kind of a special connection with Maitreya. Does anybody presently have that same kind of a connection?
As far as I'm aware, not in our group, not the same kind of relationship. Okay. He had a telepathic contact with one of the masters, from whom he got a lot of this information. He was also able to receive messages from Maitreya, but he had a moment-to-moment telepathic rapport with one of the masters. As far as I'm aware, there's nobody in our groups around the world that I know of with precisely that same relationship. Okay. That's not to say that we or anybody, not just our groups, anybody at all, cannot get impression. The masters work also through impression. They impress humanity, groups of people, those working for the good of humanity, and so on. They impress them with the new ideas. So you get the growth of the new movements, the new experiments, the women's movement, for example, Alcoholics Anonymous, for example, the new political ideas. These are often the ideas from the masters. The people are working under impression. Whether or not they're aware of that, it's because a lot of people are not aware of their connection, not aware of where the ideas come from. This shows that we, Share International, is not the only group who's involved in this work. People are working for Maitreya in every field, whether they know it or not. In the political field, the economic, the educational, the scientific, social fields, doing the work of the masters, whether they're aware of it or not. Very often they're not aware of it.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, they're doing the work.
Right. I'm following what you're saying. An impression may come across as an idea or an inspiration, or
yes, absolutely.
You will wake up in the morning and go, "Aha, that's it."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then you have that support from the masters to move forward in that. And probably, I'm thinking, if we're going toward cooperation, then those impressions would be upon the many people, perhaps, that will be involved in a group. Yeah.
Precisely. Yeah. It's not an individual. It's not an individual thing. The one of the main qualities of Aquarius is that the new ideas, the Aquarian ideas, can only be expressed in group formation. So you will see groups coming to the fore much more, and instead of this reliance on a charismatic leader, single leader leading others. It's very much more to do with groups now.
Yeah, I like what you said, because there has been this, like, this one will come and save us, and it's like, no, we will be involved in that. I've got a question for both of you, and either or both of you can answer. Like I say, we're going into a little bit of a reconstruction, remodel.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are really worried about things like the stock market collapsing and things falling apart. Will we be going through a time like that? And what kind of hope can you give us for the future? And I'm assuming the future is hopeful.
Yeah, we regard the future as very hopeful.
Okay.
That's not to say that we won't go through a very difficult period. The stock markets, Maitreya calls the stock markets the gambling houses of the world, and these, and one of the great, I hesitate to say evils, but one of the great mistakes that most leaders make these days, political leaders, is that they're enthralled to market forces. They think that the stock market has to do well, but the system of stock markets really only benefits the few who can take advantage of it. The vast majority, the billions in the world, doesn't have access to that. So it's not. It's totally incompatible with the principle of sharing. Let's put it that way. So yes, we will probably see a stock market crash, I imagine, and it'll be difficult, but it'll bring humanity to its senses. I think we need something like that to bring humanity to its senses.
I'm only laughing because it's like, knock some sense into us, please. That could be useful. Yeah.
But it's not all bad news. The presence of Maitreya and what he stands for, what he will do, is very much a message of hope.
And Loretta, you mentioned it yourself. It's not a question of a leader coming to do it for us. The masters and Maitreya don't come to solve our problems for us. We have to grow up, and we are the ones who need to make the changes throughout the world.
Great. And so where can people find out more information about the two of you, Felicity Eliot and Julian Creme?
Well, you can find out about Share International on our website. That's share-international.org. reakio-aces.org, and you will find details of all this information on there.
Wonderful. Great. It's been so wonderful having you on the show. I loved it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For the listeners, this show is archived and you can download it for free and listen to it over and over and over again. This is Loretta Brown. Find out more about me at ReikiOasis.com. Have a wonderful, wonderful, happy new year, and I'll talk to you in 2019. Yay!
The preceding audio was via a Skype call.
The views expressed on this program are those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of KKNW, its management, or other advertisers. Contests are the responsibility of the host of this program and not KKNW. This is Alternative Talk 1150 AM, KKNW Seattle.